Being brilliantly vague, number 75. Welcome back. Today, we'll be looking at the Gospel of Matthew to see how Jesus used vague stories to cull out the hungry. So let's dive in. Matthew 13 verses 24 to 30. Jesus put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was asleep, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and slipped away. When the wheat sprouted and bore grain, then the weeds also appeared. The owner's servants came to him and said, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from?" "An enemy did this," he replied. So the servants asked him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" "No," he said, "if you pull the weeds now, you might uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time I will tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned, then gather the wheat into my barn." My thoughts. Jesus continues to instruct the crowd on the kingdom using parables. He would explain the parable later to his disciples privately. Think about this for a second. How does this stack up to our teaching or preaching today? Do we leave people hanging in suspense, or do we try to make sure everyone understands to the nth degree? Or do we provide a space after our preaching or teaching to ask questions, wrestle with the concepts, and gain more clarity? Or is it a one-and-done proposition? I'm actually convicting myself as I'm writing this. I think if we taught like Jesus, we would have the same results he did. Yeah, a bunch of people wouldn't get it, but we would also have a handful of ferociously hungry people that would crawl a mile over broken glass to know the King. In light of this, I'd like to invite my readers to a Q&A session on July 27th at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time on Zoom. If you'd like to join in, click this link or see the link in the video description below. My story. I once had a mentor that was brilliant but had a really tough time getting his point across. You'd have to hear him teach the subject several times and ask questions in order to extract the gold he was alluding to. I invited a guy I was discipling to a conference where my mentor was the keynote speaker. I warned my new friend, "Now, the speaker at this conference is going to seem like he's speaking pure gibberish. Hang in there with him, ask good questions, and I promise you by the end of this weekend you'll walk away being extremely encouraged and challenged." Sure enough, after the first session, my friend came up to me and said, "I didn't understand a single thing that guy was talking about." I exhorted him to hang in there. On our drive home he was extremely quiet, and I thought maybe I had made a promise I couldn't keep. I asked him what his big takeaway was from the weekend. He said, "You were right." After the first session, I was wondering why I even came this weekend. But by the third, I fell under heavy conviction that I need to be making disciples myself. That guy was spot on. That mentor taught more like Jesus than anyone I've ever known. Maybe not intentionally, but the effect was the same. Our action plan. Now it's time for application. Here's some ideas. Share the stories Jesus shared, without explanation. Save time for Q&A at the end of your teaching. Provide a space and time to discuss the topic later. We have a lot of good resources that instruct us on how to be effective teachers. I've never read one that said, "As you teach, remain vague in order to cull out the hungry." But the greatest teacher to ever live gave us a model for finding that needle in a haystack.